All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at the September 13th UFC Fight Night card and in a very intriguing middleweight matchup against Kelvin Gastelum. Really happy to have Dustin Stoltzfus on the program today. And just, yeah, great having you on for the first time, man. Just kind of curious how your day's going so far, though, Dustin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going well. I'm starting to taper off a little bit on training, but still got some good wrestling rounds in here at the UFC PI, and yeah, wind down with a little bit of cardio, and then uh, tomorrow the same sort of stuff.
That seems like such an invaluable resource to have for fighters. It just seems like that Performance Institute has such a comprehensive layout in pretty much any regard relative to whatever a fighter's needs is. So that has to be an invaluable resource for you, I would think.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you get the guys at the upper echelon, and they can sort of create that sort of environment for themselves. But for guys who are a little bit further down the ladder who aren't making as much and can't just build their own system, it's really nice. It allows me to do my technical training and back home where I'm comfortable, where I have my coaches that I've been working with for years, and then come out here for that last grind and uh, really get sharp for the fight.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess what were the initial set of thoughts when this matchup came your way? Because I mean, someone who's been pretty much a middleweight stalwart for, a decent while at this point and in the UFC Hall of Fame with that Adesanya fight and everything, I imagine there was a pronounced level of excitement getting an opponent like this, just in terms of climbing the divisional hierarchy and everything like that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I was not planning on fighting around this time. I had told the UFC end of October, early November. Um, but when they came to me with this fight, I couldn't really say no. It's a good name. I think it's a very doable fight for us, um, even just stylistically. But I mean, Kelvin's great. I've been watching him for a long time and been a fan. So it's definitely going to be a fun fight uh, for us and for the fans and everyone involved.
And it seems like the Noche UFC series has become one of like the bigger, I guess, annual tentpole style events fans can kind of look forward to year after year. Is there a certain piece attached to this as well? Like maybe not in the context of changing your return timeline for, fighting as you kind of outlined there, but is there a certain something to, I guess, compete on an annual tentpole event that's going to presumably get a certain level of perhaps additional attention allocated towards it?
It's a bit of an icing on the cake, but it doesn't really change things too much for me. I'm just happy to go out there and uh, have a chance to perform. So and I mean the crowd atmosphere is always great. Like you get to certain places. I've um, like in Canada, even though they were very much against me, loved the atmosphere there. In Paris, the crowd's also great, and so just having a lot of energy either way. They'll probably not be on my side with Kelvin being of Mexican or Hispanic descent, but it doesn't really matter to me too much. I just love the energy either way that's going.
Yeah, and I mean to the point of that Barriault fight and probably some previous fights as well. Like you don't necessarily strike me as a guy that's dissuaded one way or the other. If you're like the away player or if you're fighting on home turf, it's kind of just like the excitement is aligned with, I guess, getting to show the newly accrued set of skills on a fight to fight basis. Is that kind of the general drive for these fights and just the general career and everything you'd say?
Yeah, I'm much more me focused than outwardly focused. I'm just trying to go in there and do my best and put on a show and uh, prove to myself and to the brass of the UFC and to the fans what I can do and just show what I've been working on. It's very much for the most part, just I want to go out there and do what I can do, sort of thing. But that being said, um, being somewhat more of a nervous person maybe with fighting, it's sort of nice to have that crowd there. It takes me out of my own head sometimes, and I like the energy, even if they're booing me. It's just nice to have people there who care either way.
That's kind of interesting because obviously there's many different permutations of fighter mindsets, but it seems like I guess like a predominant fighter type can often be, I guess, almost the inverse of what you're talking about, where it's like when they get under the bright lights and there's all the people in the arena, there's a certain, I guess, like magnitude or maybe gravitas isn't the word, but a certain additional kind of thing as opposed to just like what one would naturally be doing anyway on a day-to-day basis. But it seems like you have that emboldenment from the live atmosphere and everything like that. Has that always been the case throughout your competitive career, or has a shift kind of taken place at a certain point within that?
No, it's always been sort of been that way for me. I'm not really a big flamboyant, outgoing person. But it's maybe it's just the absurdity of it all. It's just so outside of what's normal for me and what's normal life that it just almost doesn't seem real. And then it's just, it, yeah, just feel a little bit looser when um, when the energy makes it feel like it's much more than just me going out there and doing my thing. It's I'm just part of like this system and this energy that's going on. It's just sort of hard to explain, but it definitely gets me out of my own head a little bit, which I notice a lot then when I'm back at the Apex, it being quiet, it makes me a little bit more hesitant. But then when I'm out in front of big crowd, I have a little bit less yeah, uh, up with that blocking.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. It seems like there's that, I guess, abundance of surrounding stimuli that you're allocating your focus to, as opposed to, like you said, being in your own head about certain things. So that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you were talking about, I guess, what you would be getting up to and whatnot outside of, competition and stuff like that, and how that's obviously like an inordinate thing for, I mean, really anyone to be doing in a sense. But I guess just you kind of touching upon that, like, what would you say your lifestyle is outside of like fighting, training, etc.? Like, what do you find yourself getting up to? It seems like you enjoy nature and things of that persuasion.
Yeah, I mean, most of my days are spent with running my gym. I have a little gym over where I live in Germany. Um, I try to get outside and be active as much as I can, whether that's uh, biking, hiking, climbing, doing whatever. Um, yeah, and in the last year or two, I've started uh, getting back into construction and building a little bit. I'm not preparing for a fight. I'm working construction about 1 or 2 days a week, um, just to build things with my hands again and have that aspect back in my life as well. So that's what I like to do. I like to make things. I like to train, and I like to be outside. So
No, for sure. And I guess what do you get out of that construction kind of piece? Like you talk about how it's kind of like reintegrating a certain something into your life. Like what would you say it is that you get out of, those kind of pursuits?
maybe just more the concrete, tactile success. So you work on something, you work on something, you work on something, and then something new that wasn't there before is now there. Um, so that's nice. It's a nice feeling. It's also a nice skill to have when renovating your own place, your own house, or with friends. You can just get in there and fix something or make something for yourself or for other people. You don't need to be so reliant on having other people come and do things. So uh, just the self satisfaction of building something really speaks to me. And then also just that self sufficiency of just being able to do things on your own.
And I'm curious, I guess, on like a fight to fight basis and whatnot, I guess like combing over certain tape or things where it's like, oh, I could do this differently or tighten this up, just the general amendments that one would presumably do on a fight to fight basis. Like, is that kind of similar tactile interfacing in the gym kind of, I guess, subverting some of those things or even honing certain skills? Like, do you get a similar, I guess, tactile enjoyment out of that kind of piece as well? Just like the, I guess, amendments or certain things that you would be cognizant of on a, I guess, camp to camp basis, fight to fight basis kind of thing?
Definitely. And that's also one of the things that drives me to fighting and martial arts. It's that uh, you go and you work in the gym, you're practicing, you're practicing, you're practicing, but without having the competition to get in there and actually see if what you're doing makes any sense or if uh, you're actually learning the things and being able to apply them. Without the competition, that all seems a little empty to me. So that's why I compete. That's why I like to go out there and then try to put together everything that I've learned and everything that I've been working on. So similar vein, yeah.
I would think that would be especially exciting to be, honing the skills of certain people and owning the gym as you were kind of outlining there. I guess just maybe seeing certain people kind of piece it together in their own regard. And I would think there'd be some residual benefit to, what you do as a fighter, just like that further refinement of the basics that seems to come for a lot of fighters who happen to also teach and things like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. When in the next coming years, or as I transition away from fighting and more into the coaching aspect, um, sort of like a part-time coach right now. I mean, I own the gym, but I leave for months on end, and my guys run it. So once I make that transition a little bit more to being more hands-on with my team, it's very much the uh, same sort of concept. Where now I'm not necessarily proving the competition is no longer a means for me to prove what I've been learning working on myself. It's then I helped build these fighters up, and now they're going out into the world and doing their thing. Uh, it's a little bit different. It's a step removed, but again, it's very similar vein.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just love hearing you get into it. It seems like something you're definitely, passionate about and, have invested a lot of your life into as well. And it's cool that you're based in Germany and kind of, I guess, serving that, I guess, global piece of the whole MMA scene and stuff like that. Like it seems like there's a certain, I guess, stimulation to that area in a certain regard too. Like I guess with Octagon MMA having a show coming up there fairly soon, and it seems like they're doing great things and obviously some regional circuits out there and stuff like that. So just cool to see that.
Yeah, Octagon's been doing great in Germany. People really like it, especially the guys in Frankfurt have a lot of following, and Octagon has done a great job um, using the stars that were already in the German regional scene, and then also just um, pushing viral moments, pushing the fighters that they're building up. They've just been doing a great job to the point where I've been stopped a couple times, um, once with my UFC bag, once because of my ears, and they weren't asking about, oh, do you do that UFC thing? It was, oh, do you do that Octagon thing? Um, like, oh, UFC, that's sort of like Octagon, right? It's like, yeah, yeah, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks volumes. That's incredible. That must fill you with a certain positive sentiment. I mean, just with your, I guess, even anecdotal experience with the circuit, too, just with your professional MMA debut being on that We Love MMA circuit in Germany. Like, that's an incredible sort of thing. I would think that, I guess, North American fans would maybe have a hard time even, I guess, perceiving that that's a dynamic. But I've also heard that with ardent KSW fans and stuff like that, too, where it's like, oh, UFC, is that like KSW? So that's cool that Octagon has a similar kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the regional scene in Germany, we were like just cracking into certain TV deals and things like that. But it was so under the radar of what most people know. But now it's showing up as still sort of niche, but people know about it. Like I've heard my neighbors talking about the German Neanderthal, and they are not athletic people. They do not know that I fight. And here they are living beside a UFC fighter. And like, oh, have you seen that German Neanderthal guy? Like, that's quite this interesting sport. I just have to sort of laugh at that.
I mean, that's incredible. And yeah, like I said, definitely, speaks volumes to what they're doing out there and stuff like that. And obviously, this is a massive fight you have coming up. And I feel like I have a few more questions in relation to it, but just combing over your tapology, some interesting bouts that you've obviously had, but even some bouts that kind of fell through. Like I saw you were supposed to fight Caio Borralho circa December 2021 before Borralho withdrew from that fight. I guess I kind of bring that up to perhaps get your thoughts on that upcoming main event fight this weekend with Kyle Borralho and Nasruddin Imavov and everything.
Yeah, that was a very interesting time. I was supposed to fight Fluffy actually, and then he got hurt very shortly before the fight, and then they brought in Kyle, and we agreed to that. Um, and then also just maybe half a week or something, or a week and a half before the fight, that got scrapped due to visa issues, and then I ended up having Mearshart. So I went through very, very different um, opponents. So that was a very interesting, a very confusing time. Um, but yeah, he's a solid fighter. He's definitely proven himself to be at the top of the heat. Can do it all. He can grapple well. He can strike well. Uh, doesn't fold under pressure and doesn't really get that tired either. So he's doing great. Um, yeah, I think it's a good match. See see where it goes, but I'm not really a betting man, so I'm not going to throw a name in the hat. But yeah, it's definitely a good fight.
Yeah, sure. And even outside of just like, a rigid like binary of like a prediction per se, just even like, thoughts on that matchup and stuff like that. Because also, yeah, Imavov having quite a run as well and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess I more meant that in the vein of just, I guess, like analyzing the matchup as opposed to like I guess like rigid binary of like a win or loss or this guy's gonna win, this guy's gonna lose kind of persuasion. But I do get what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. I think Kyle's probably going to try to piece them up and work them on the feet, and possibly tie in some grappling and pressure them. Where Imavov seems to be a little bit more of a power puncher or finisher. We'll try to look for his openings, but yeah, again, it's fighting. As I've learned, it's very unpredictable. It's anything can happen.
And you did mention Fluffy Hernandez within there, and it's kind of interesting to, I guess, just comb over certain things and whatnot too. Just like wild that you were supposed to, fight both of those individuals on the same card and then the two withdrawals. But I guess just even in the context of Fluffy having his own massive fight against Rainier de Ritter at that UFC Vancouver card, I mean, that definitely seems like another high stakes matchup with potential title eliminator, connotations attached to it.
Yeah, great performance against Roman too. I mean, I've trained with Roman, and uh, he's not easy to get on the ground. He's very tricky. And so Fluffy going in there and putting in that performance with him speaks volumes for his ability against Rainier as well. Um, so yeah, another super exciting fight. Um, yeah, it's hard to say where that one's going to go, but um, uh, De Ritter has a very interesting style and a very interesting skill set. I was lined up to fight him back in the regional scene as well, so we've been on each other's radar for a long time. But great fighter, great guy, and then Fluffy as well too. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's just such an exciting time for the middleweight division and everything like that. And your matchup squarely fits within that as well. I guess just kind of some of the discourse we've had about this fight before, and I guess the recent UFC PI work. I guess I'm curious on like a fight to fight basis if you curate your camps in a way that's very much, I guess, personalized to maybe getting your sparring partners to, I guess, emulate certain stylistic attributes to your opponents, or is it kind of just about your personal refinement and your, I guess, sparring partners kind of expressing themselves within their own, I guess, stylistic idioms, and you kind of just refine your skills and kind of focus more on that individual refinement piece as opposed to like tailor-made specific kind of emulation approaches for each opponent, if that distinction makes sense.
Yeah, I don't try to emulate my opponents too much because someone at the gym trying to imitate someone is not going to be uh, anywhere near as good as the person who does that every day, and that's their bread and butter. But I do try to find people who have at least similar in the same vein. Like in this case, mostly training stand up against lefties, and with people who have at least a similar body type to Kelvin, just to get used to the feel. But yeah, I don't think it makes too much sense unless someone has an almost identical style to really push it too much and be like, let's try to get this spot on to see what they do, unless you're just doing technical work. But for sparring, because no one's going to be able to hold themselves to that standard when it's new for them, and that's the bread and butter of what the other guy does. It's just not quite realistic.
Yeah, no, I hear where you're coming from. I get what you mean with like the I guess mirroring of the physical dimensions kind of piece, just to I guess get certain I guess range considerations and just yeah certain things to your approach. But yeah, I get what you mean. You're ultimately getting a sparring partner to emulate a style that they're probably not going to be able to do quite as proficiently as the fighter themselves, and that would yeah have to inherently be the case. So yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense and everything like that. But yeah, no, super exciting fight, man, and just really appreciate you, coming on the program today and giving such great insights all throughout the chat. But yeah, I guess like one of the last things I would want to touch on. Obviously, you're squarely focused on this fight and a massive matchup, but just curious if maybe that Joe Pyfer rematch someday makes sense. I feel like I've seen there be a bit of like back and forth over the last couple years, few years, and everything like that, and maybe might not be like the next booking per se, but just do you see that as almost like an inevitable rematch in a certain sense, just in the sense of how high you guys are up in the middleweight hierarchy and everything like that?
I mean, if it happens, it probably won't happen for a little bit. I've got some work to do as far as getting on an actual win streak. Um, in my humble opinion, I should be on a win streak right now, but officially I am not. So I got to put in some work. Joe's doing great. Joe's definitely making a lot more noise in the division than I am. So all power to him. I don't know. I don't really like running things back. I don't ever really feel even wins or losses or whatever. I'm not a big guy for chasing rematches. If that's what he wants and that's what the UFC wants, we can do it. But it doesn't really fuss me too much either way.
And that's interesting because the way you were phrasing your last outing in May against Nursultan Ruziboyev, it would seem like that was a fight that you thought you should have been on the other side of, like in terms of getting that decision victory on the judges' scorecards. But even based on what you just said, it's not necessarily a thing you're looking to kind of like chase in like a rematch context, like the classic, I guess, redemption style narrative that certain, I guess, media types like myself might be inclined to use in some situations. So even though, yeah, you thought you should have gotten the nod in that one, not necessarily a thing you're chasing per se.
No, because it doesn't change what happened on that night. It doesn't change my performance. It doesn't change his performance, and it doesn't change what the judges decided. So at the end of the day, if we would get a new rematch, it's a different day. He's going to be a different fighter. I'm going to be a different fighter, and it's just a completely different scenario. I'm not opposed to rematches. Like if the UFC comes up and says, "Hey, we want to do North Sultan," Kyle Dawkins made it back in to the UFC. If I like want to do him, you want to do Joe, whatever. Um, sure, but it's not something that I feel the need to chase for my own ego or something like that because it doesn't change the fact that the fight went the way it did or that the decision went the way it did.
Yeah, no, I hear you for sure. And I guess just one of the other, I guess, statement victories that you got was that win over Puna Soriano. And I was just seeing a report actually shortly before we actually began this interview with this, I guess, rumblings and just, I guess, general reporting on the October booking that he has on that UFC 320 card against Nikolai Veretennikov. And just curious to, maybe get your thoughts on that particular matchup if you happen to have any.
Um, I'm 100% in Puna's corner. I think Puna has the skills to do it. And even if he didn't, I would still be rooting for him. So I'm 100% behind Puna on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, a very compelling fight in its own right and everything like that. But yeah, super excited for this Kelvin Gastelum contest on September 13th coming up on this Noche UFC card. But I do also want to be mindful of your time, Dustin, and cognizant of your schedule. So is there maybe a final parting thought you might want to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here, man?
Not too much other than Noche is definitely going to be a great card, and our fight's going to be fireworks. I've been known to stand and bang at my own detriment, um, and haven't put on a boring fight in my career so far. And Kelvin's always exciting, and he's always game too. So it's definitely going to be one to tune into.
Well, I mean, how demonstrably exciting you've been, and the fact that Kelvin Gastelum literally got inducted in the Hall of Fame because of how exciting he is. I mean, this has fight of the night written all over it. I mean, who knows, maybe even fight of the year. So, yeah, I mean, to my prior sentiment, super excited for this fight even before talking to you, but definitely getting me that much more interested in the matchup. But again, thanks so much for making the time on Bowks Talking Bouts, Dustin. I'll be checking out that fight with Kelvin Gastelum when it goes down. But until then, you have a good rest of your day, man. And thank you so much for the insights.
Yeah, thank you.